Hey y'all, and welcome to the December wrap-up. I know, I can't believe I'm getting it out on the first weekend of the month either. This is the first weekend, right? Then it's just such a blur, and I'm hoping I still remember the things I read at the beginning of December. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Morgan, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. There will be the December wrap-up, a little bit of the 2023 wrap-up, but let's go ahead and get into the analytics, and we'll go in reading order because that's just, my brain works better if I go in the way that I read them. Without further ado, here we go. Today we have it written on a sticky note because my calendar is more of a to-do list breakdown than any, I don't have a notebook like last year. I don't know yet. I could have written it on my tablet. We're babbling. The formats though, we have 3 that were ebook, 3 that were audio only, and 4 that were audio physical mixed. We have 1 unrated because it was a nonfiction, the biography thing. 2 that were 4.5 stars, 3 that were 4.25, 2 that were 4 stars, 2 that were 3.5, and 1 that was a 2.5. So overall, December seems like it was a really good reading month. And it was. Just kind of rushed because holidays. Okay, we'll talk about the overall year at the end. Okay, the first book I read comes out technically next week because it was an ARC. Thank you to NetGalley. That was The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. Heiress, the heiress. This one is a domestic suspense, right? It follows Camden McTavish and his wife, Jules Brighton. She still goes by a different last name for reasons that they agreed upon. I don't remember. But it is mostly following them within Hawkins' usual style, though there are interludes in between the regular chapters from a form of letters from Ruby McTavish, who was Camden's adopted mother. And Ruby McTavish is quite infamous in her North Carolina town as Baby Ruby, who disappeared at 3 years old while on a picnic with her family and was found several months later and recovered. But this kind of air of mystery and misfortune followed her for the rest of her life, as she was married 4 different times, and each of the 4 husbands died under bad circumstances. Ruby had quite the controversial life. She lived to be well into her, I want to say 80s though, and had adopted Camden in the later part of her life, and this family was very old money. And when Ruby died though, everything went to Camden. Everything. So the rest of the family, her sister and her sister's kids, were quite upset by this. But Cam didn't want the money. It is a lot of things, the hoops to jump through Ruby's will, what all really happened to Ruby when she was younger and all her husbands. And is Jules the person she says she is? There's a whole past, hidden thing with Jules as well. I think going through it, the biggest thing was, to me at least, was what's up with Jules. Also in the past with, what really happened with Ruby, and answering those questions more than exactly the present. Because there was this air of, well, what is the family doing? Why do they seem sketchy? But that's pretty obviously just greed and money and, people wanting to be rich. And the next 2 were both the audio onlys, and they were both 3.5 stars. And they're just Christmas books, Christmassy romance books that I could listen to while doing chores, both very short. The first one was The Christmas Star by Kate Forrester. I cut off the name there. And this one you are following Julia Devine, who is a manager at a little theater. It's like an indie theater, not one of the big chain ones. And Christmas is her favorite time of year, but her and her stepsister don't have the best relationship, and it's always kind of one-upping situation. So she doesn't want to go home alone, and she ropes somebody in kind of to pretend to be her boyfriend. So it's the fake dating trope. It was very sweet. I liked how they were getting to know each other and bonding. The only thing is it was very, very obvious that this person was really someone that everybody kept mistaking him for. To everybody apparently but Julia. The end, though, they weren't exactly together. They were agreeing to test it out as she'd found out the truth of who he really was, and they were just going to move forward slowly. So that was good and realistic. I enjoyed that part. Wasn't just happily ever after when Christmas is over. And then the next one was How to Lose a Guy Before Christmas by AJ Pine. This one is a second chance sort of thing. In this one though, our main characters are forced to do like a rideshare kind of thing home from Chicago to Minnesota, the Twin Cities. Snowstorm has grounded all the flights. They use this rideshare app, and when he pulls up to pick her up, she's like, oh no, this is the guy that I had the one night stand with at Thanksgiving and ghosted. So it was a miscommunication, second chance, Christmas time, their car has an accident because it's a snowstorm. And so they get stuck in this town called Tinsel, and it's adorable and very Christmassy. And they're actually getting to know each other this time and realizing that they do have a lot of feelings for each other. You do get to see from both characters' POV after chapter 3. The girl's name's Lucy. I no longer remember James, maybe, because Olsen James was his pen name. And I liked the story. It was kind of cute and realistic. Okay, sorry for the monthly tornado siren check. But I did enjoy the ending. Like I said, the name is a little bit weird. It's still going. Okay. It's Thursday. Wait, right? Yes, it's Thursday. I don't know if this happens where you live. Normally it's the first Wednesday of every month, so why are they doing it on Thursday? I do not think they did it yesterday, though, now that I think about it. I don't know, maybe the holidays threw off the schedule. I figured everybody was already back at work, but whatever. Okay, the next book that I read is one of the two that was tied for the best book of December, and that is When Stars Burn Out by Ava Reed. This, I kind of think she classifies it as YA. I think it could also maybe fall in that new adult range. It is a dystopian sci-fi type novel where a plague has wiped most of the population of Earth out, transforming people into what they call the muted. Oh my gosh, it changes your body a lot. Like, okay, their hearing is very more sensitive. They can no longer speak. Their throat kind of swells up and everything. And they start eating people. It's not necessarily, I think, that they eat people, but they do attack other people. They kill people off. And it transforms people into muted if they are bitten like that. There is a small colony in space, though, where the nations have gathered together to try to create a hybrid sort of army to be able to fight the muted and, bring back the planet. Our main character, though, is one of these and most of the specimens, they're genetically altered so that they are immune to the muted, and they also have abilities. But our main character does not. And they are also trained in combat from the whole time they're alive. So they are part of a group, though, that they're raised with this group, they're trained with this group, they expect to deploy with this group to be able to complete their missions. But at the point in time when they would be going from training into active duty, our main character is failed out of her tests, and the fact that she also has no abilities holds her back. And so things are happening, though, where a lot of the groups getting deployed are disappearing. And now her group is going to be the next to deploy, and she can't go with them. And she has this personality, though, where I'm awesome. I can get anything done. It doesn't matter. I'll be able to do it. So hearing that she can't go is kind of very bad. But something does end up happening, and she is sent to Earth with them, and they find this whole other thing happening than what they had been told. Nothing is exactly what it seems like what they grew up with. It was very interesting. Things did not turn out exactly how you thought they would. This is going to be the first in the series. The second book is supposed to come out sometime in 2024, I believe. And just the way it turned out was very different than what I thought was going to happen. Next up was my ebook audio mix, which would be 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This one I liked more than I thought I would, really, because it is a YA and it is kind of slow paced. Our main character, Shiori, is very much the YA protagonist, though. She is very self-involved at the beginning. She is a princess, and she just doesn't want to get married in this arranged marriage. So much so that she doesn't even want to meet the person she's supposed to marry. She just thinks he's a barbarian, and of course he ends up being the nicest person ever. But when she inadvertently meets a dragon, she's had a very bad relationship with her stepmother for a long time. Some fight with her stepmother while she's trying to convince her 6 brothers that their stepmother is evil. And her stepmother turns her brothers into cranes and curses Shiori to have a wooden bowl on her head that she cannot remove. And she cannot speak because if she speaks, one of her brothers will die for every word she says. And then she sends her away. And so Shiori is moneyless and not really many skills. She can cook some. And she can't talk to anybody to tell anybody who she is or defend herself, and she's away from her brothers too. But they do find each other, and they try to break the curse and save their father and their realm, because once all the heirs disappear, the war starts where outside nation is attacking them and inside fighting because the emperor no longer has any children. So yes, I enjoyed it quite a bit more because Shiori's growth, she went from this selfish, not really thinking of others princess into this really strong young woman who, does see other people and values other people now instead of just thinking of only herself. Finally, an actual physical book to hold up. Next was The Hurricane Wars by Thea Gonzin. If you listen to the audiobook, they said it, I don't remember. This was a 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it, though it didn't focus on the wars quite that much. In this, the continent is a war called the Hurricane Wars because the abilities they have in the storm ships, manipulate the weather and cause hurricanes. The Hurricane Wars started 30 years ago after this one country, Kasath, went into another one, Sunset, where all of the light weavers were, and destroyed them. But kind of started before that, after something happened within the Kasathian government where they become the Night Empire. He is the heir to the Night Empire, though, Ulrich is, and it's almost instant attraction. He sees her, he's intrigued by her, he is attracted to her, and so he keeps making allowances for her instead of just killing her. And Taliesin, she's just a normal cadet in the Sardovian Alfode, except the High Commander does know that she is a Lightweaver. She's the last Lightweaver. But they want to keep this secret because they know she would be murdered. Until something happens, and in order to pretty much save herself and try to get away and get other people away, she does have to reveal her abilities. Because for all of the different types of ether magic that are used through the world, and that's really cool that how they power their technology is through ether hearts, and they get them from these severs. The magic system, though, I think is really cool, and how they have this technology of it. I did the review on it, so hopefully that's more concise with the magic system and the world building. And I'm really looking forward to the next one, as I hope we will get more into the broader bits of the world. We only really got to see the continent and the islands, and I want to see more of the varied magic, something like that, because the Night Emperor, he's got some dark trick happening there that he has uncovered things. And yeah, I'm really afraid this wrap up is going to be too long because I'm babbling and talking about things too much. And not saying much at the same point. Next, though, was the nonfiction The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. Yes, I listened to her memoir while doing Christmas shopping. That's depressing, by the way. Don't do that. It's all just sad. You're busy and you're rushed and there's so much happening, and then you're listening to what was happening to her. Like, she does start when she's little, and there's a lot of time skips forward to mostly focusing on where things were going wrong and the conservatorship was starting and her struggle to get out of that and her mental health. So many professionals, like doctors and stuff, that worked with her but were just pretty much paid to like keep her in confinement and paid off by her family to like keep her, not actually treat her. Because anybody could have seen, what's it called, postpartum depression, and knowing what was happening, knowing she was being worked too hard. There were so many signs, and yet nobody was helping her or getting her the right things. That whole situation was just absolutely, utterly horrible. We will move on from that. I read it, and then I ordered the second one in its special edition from the Bookish Box too. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Was another 4 stars. I can't say I'm in the camp of completely loving. Definitely not in the camp of completely hating, because it was a fun read. Was our character a little immature sometimes? Yes. Was she too gung-ho about, being able to do anything, regardless if it was cheating? Maybe. There's so many people's complaints about it's not original, it ripped off too many things. Most of the things they named, though, were YA, and then this is just, aged up. But whatever. It was still a fun read. I love the dragons. The dragons are awesome. How, though? The dragons are going to be alive for centuries and let humans do that thing that you find out they did at the end, though. That's the questionable part. That's the questionable part. We'll have to see in Iron Flame, because I haven't read Iron Flame yet. But in this, you are following Violet Sorrengail, who has studied her whole life to be a scribe. But her mother, the general of the Dragon Riders, says, nope, you're going to be a writer because scribes are lesser. Even though your father was a scribe, even though your body is weak and because you're kind of sickly because of something that happened before you were even born, I'm going to send my weakest child into the most dangerous course at the War College possible. Miraculously, Violet does continue to survive through her whole first year. And the other book tied for Best Book of the Month is Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky, because this one was only a 4.5 stars, which is a little sad. Both the other books were 5, or wait, was Children of Ruin 5? Okay, the whole series, though, follows descendants from Earth, as at this point in time, Earth has collapsed. It's not livable anymore, and people set off in ships to find these lost terraformed planets that were terraformed by the ancients before bad things happened on Earth, and we lost the ability to space travel, but gotten it back. And they are fleeing Earth to find these terraformed planets. And in the first book, the planet that they find that's supposed to be their Eden and perfect for them to live on is not actually uninhabited. They have to work out, how do we get our planet? How do we survive? And each book, though, in the trilogy does follow a different arc ship that left from Earth at that time. The first one is following the Gilgamesh. The second one actually was not an arc ship, that was something else. And this one is following the Erishimo, no, something I don't think I can pronounce, that found a different terraform project planet, and their story and how their descendants played out, and how now generations into the future, distant peoples that were descendants of Earth have found each other again and trying to interact. Each book, though, does question sentience and intelligence and emotional things and how we're all interconnected, of course. And the one that this one looks at out there and how the book ended also probably brought it down a little bit, because how is that the end of the entire series? And supposedly this one does not really connect to any of his other works unless he's planning something in the future. Because how is that the end? Still, highly recommend the entire trilogy, or even just the first book if you just want to try the first book. It was an amazing, amazing sci-fi book. Okay, and the next book that technically I started before this one, and this one I think, was Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. Now I've loved the other two books that I have read by her. I was so excited to get to this one too. It's the only horror-ish author. I mean, sometimes it's classified as horror, sometimes it's thriller, I think. This one definitely does not feel like a horror. The only horror still is like a body horror. I just did not like this one. It was 2.5 stars. I almost DNF'd it. But I got the audio with Spotify, their free trial, so I did the audio and finished it, and it's just... In this one, we are following Vesper Wright, who escaped from her family years before, and she's been estranged from them because growing up, things were not even horrible, it was just weird, I suppose. Her mother was a horror movie star, losing the ability to speak, and just always very distant and icy towards her. But her aunt loved her, treated her like one of her own. And so Vesper always grew up loved in this sense. But everything was always just a little off there at the farm in Vermont. And now she's been in New Jersey for the past years. She's just working as a waitress, not even really trying to do anything with her life, trying to move farther, just not even in survival mode. She's kind of rude about everything. She doesn't try to be happy. But she gets an invitation to her cousin's wedding, which there's not supposed to be any going back to the family when you leave them. You're not supposed to be allowed to come back. But there's an invitation to her cousin's wedding, so she decides to go back. And just everything when she gets back is just bad, and I don't know. There was no emotional connection to Vesper. I didn't care for her. I didn't care about her. I didn't care for her. And everything was kind of predictable. And then the epilogue, which it showed that she'd grown, I guess, a little bit for the epilogue, but still, I just didn't care. The last book of the month, though, was Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett. It was a 4.25 stars. I just barely got it done in December. In this one, we are still following Professor Emily Wilde and Dr. Wendell Bramberly as she's working on this other, well, it's called the Map of the Other Lands, but that's not even the big project she's working on. She's still trying to work on finding Wendell's door. That's become her obsession. Haven't read the first one. That's probably confusing. In Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, she has gone to Hranesvik, where she is documenting a specific species of fairy there, because that is her job as a dryadologist, to document fairies, to finish off her encyclopedia that's going to, categorize all the fairies. And while there, because she is not good with talking to people, she's not getting very much information about them, trying to be able to find these particular sorts of fairies there. But her colleague, Wendell Bramberly, shows up and they're kind of friends. He considers them great friends. She considers him a nuisance. And he's, of course, charming, and mischief ensues. It is just a hilariously good time. It is considered a cozy fantasy for some reason. I'm still not sure why. It's kind of dark. It is, I think a lot of it's funny. It's also slower paced. Maybe that's why it's cozy. It's set up in a journal format, and yeah, dark things happen. The fairies are dark, and the romance is only a little bit, as she's realizing that, she kind of likes Wendell, and Wendell definitely likes her. And their interactions, though, was just adorable. That was all the ones for December. Overall for the year, we read 117 books, and the best book of the year ended up being Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, based off the numbers. So yay, I'm very excited. Because the battery's dying, I'll just rush through this. I would love to know how your Decembers ended up, how your 2023 ended, and what are some of your reading goals for this year. I have set my bar a little bit lower to 84, but we'll probably raise that up. We'll see. Hopefully all your months are going great, though. The beginning of your month is going great. If you enjoyed this, which I hope wasn't too long, you'll subscribe and stick around for more content like the Children of Time review next week and all the things. Thank y'all so much for being here. I hope you're finding something awesome to read today, and I'll see you later. Bye, y'all.